So, how many of you all really enjoy going to the beach or going on vacation to a beach? I love it. I have often told my wife that I could see myself living down on the eastern shore somewhere, working on a boat, ship. You know, I've always loved the water, crabbing, fishing. I could see myself doing that. I could be out on a boat all day long. But besides that, I've always went to the beach ever since I was a little kid, and I love being out in the sun. I love being in the water, and I just like the atmosphere, just how the heat and the water being ice cold, and so let me tell you a little story, and it touched my heart because sometimes we as people, believers, we tend to not get into the water per se. Like God's looking for us to be all in, and sometimes we're just we put our toes in the water. Those times where you went to the beach and the water was freezing, and you go like as a little kid does, and you run down when the waves go back to the water, and then as the waves start crashing in, you run back to the beach because you don't want to touch the water because it's so cold. I feel like some of us as believers, that's the way we live our life. Oh God, we're going to go a little bit further in, but as soon as the waves start to come or it starts to get unfamiliar with us because we can't see what's out there, we're going to back paddle again and go back to where we were. And there's got to be something inside of us to be like, I want more. And God, I'm going to trust you by faith, and I don't care what's out there in that water. I don't care what could come against me. I don't care about the dangers. I'm gonna go all in on this, God. I'm gonna get totally submerged in you. And I find, like, in my own walk with God, it's just like the beach. Like when you get there and you touch the water the first time before you get into the water, and you're like, "Brr, man, that's cold." The best thing for you to do is to take off running, and that's what I do. Is I take off running for the water, and I go for the deep end, and I dive right in, because as soon as you get yourself in that water, your body regulates your temperature, and the water is not nearly as bad as what it was if you would just still be creeping and walking and tiptoeing and getting your knee deep, and then as the waves crash, run back. So let me tell you a story, and this story happened several years ago. We had took my daughter Brooke to the beach, and she was this little girl. She probably was 5-6 years old, and I got this. We were on the beach, and we were walking out in the water, and I got to ask Brooke if she would want to go with me. I would hold her the whole time, but we'd walk out to where the water was a little deeper. And Brooke was like, "Okay, Daddy." And as I walked her out, how you always plan, just like how we do for life, we try to have everything, structured, and we plan for things. Well, I'm thinking to myself, I'm a dad and I want to protect her, so let's go out when the waters are not so, where the waves are not so high. Let's wait till the timing's right, and we'll walk out there. So I waited till the waves had died down a little bit, and they weren't nearly as aggressive, so I could sneak out past them, because once you get past where the waves crash, you can just float as the waves come in. Well, as I was going out, I just told Brooke, as I was talking to her, as I brought her out there, I said, "Brooke, don't worry about it, I got you." I said, "But if something would happen, just listen to Daddy and what I tell you to do." And she's like, "Okay." And we're walking out there, and the next thing I know, no sooner than we got out, past some of the smaller waves, this big wave came rise. It just came out of nowhere, man. And I told Brooke, I said, "Brooke, you got to hold on." I said, hold your breath, okay?" And as we got to the peak of this thing, I jumped, and the water came and got her in the face. Well, needless to say, that was the end of taking Brooke out into the water that day, because after she got frightened by it, that she didn't want to have nothing to do with me taking her out in the water anymore. Well, now we go a year or so later, and I hear my daughter talking in the conversation, and this is where it blesses my heart. So my daughter was talking to somebody, and she said, "Yeah, I remember the time, me and Dad got out there in that water at the ocean, and the wave came, and it came and it hit me in the face, and She said, I was so scared. She said, I was so scared that day. And she said this. She goes, but I'm so glad that my daddy had a hold of me. And if you compare that to our own life, like how many times I have been out in that water and all along God's like, I got you, boy. You know, you're my son and I love you. And just go out in there just a little farther. Just go out. I got you. I'm going to hold you. You don't have to worry about nothing. I got you. Like, whatever comes your way, just listen to what I tell you to do, and you're going to be okay. So I hope that blesses somebody out there, because I feel like so many of us are so safe. We want to stay on the shoreline. We want to lounge in our beach chair right there where the water line comes in and get our feet wet, and that's about it. We don't want to really go in and actually get involved. Like that, I would guess you could compare that to the people that sit back in the pews and don't do anything. They just come on a Sunday night, Wednesday night, or during board meetings or whatever. They come, they do their part, but they don't really get involved. They just kind of sit back because like they're waiting on God to come back so they can go to glory. I don't know. But we have to, God wants us to be involved, and he wants us to be consistently, by faith, trusting him in life situations. And when we're sitting on the shoreline and we're back in the beach chair, we're just kind of coasting. We're kind of like comfortable, and God wants us to be uncomfortable. And when you're uncomfortable is when you're out in the water. When you're out in the water and you can't see anything, and the waves are coming and they're crashing, and you get, you know, when a wave comes in, the first thing you do is your body goes up and you can't touch the ground. And people don't like things that are unfamiliar. They like things that they're comfortable with, that they've always done. That's the way it's always been. Well, God's calling us to be bigger than that, and he wants us to be people that go all in. That no matter what it looks like, no matter how it feels, that we go all in. We submerge ourselves in him because we trust him more than we trust the circumstances or the things around us. So God bless you all. I hope you find God right where you need him. I think we struggle a lot, and some of it's our own doing, but just call on his name. He said, for those that wholeheartedly search for him, he comes to them. And he's thinking about you. He cares for you. You're not alone. So don't listen to yourself, the voices that you talk to or the voices that you're listening to. Just remember that once you're God's, there's nothing that could take you out of it. Like, he loves you unconditionally, and nothing can ever change that. His grace is sufficient, and if we could only see ourselves the way he sees us, like, that's hard for us to do because we're humans, but he cares so much for you. So I hope you have a blessed day, night, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing. I hope you realize that it's worth getting into the deep. It's worth getting into the Word. It's worth getting into your prayer life. It's worth being obedient. It's worth taking life's inconveniences and use them for opportunities for God to be seen in you and through you.